If you want to know more about high-speed sync flash photography, stay tuned. This video is for you. After receiving a handful of questions on high-speed sync, I thought now would be a good time to create a brief tutorial. I'm going to start off by talking about high-speed sync, and then I'm going to jump into a relatively crude demo, and then I'm going to finish up with a few final thoughts. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right in. What is high-speed sync? High-speed sync is your camera's ability to push past the native maximum shutter speed of your camera when paired with any given flash. Just about every camera out there has some type of maximum shutter speed when paired with a flash, and that's typically right around 1/200th of a second. Now, why would you want to shoot faster than 1/200th of a second? Well, if you are outside on a nice, bright, sunny day, which is opposite of what it is today where I am, you might be outside and you might have some sun on the subject, maybe behind the subject, and it might cast some raccoon eyes, and you may want a little fill flash. Now, at the same time, you may also want that nice, soft background. And in order to get that background, you're going to have an f-stop that is wide open. So maybe you're at an f-stop of around 2 or 2.2 and you're using the fixed 50, for example. Now when you do this, your ISO is at 100, and if you're in aperture mode, your camera will take the shutter speed and tune that up, and it's going to be something greater than 1/200th of a second for the most part. And when it is, if you want to use that fill flash with just a regular standard flash, it will not happen, and that creates a problem. So what you need is the ability to high-speed sync. What I'm holding in my hand right here is the K&F 882 high-speed sync flash. Now I've been using this for quite a while and I've had a lot of fun with it, and it works really well. There are two things to make this work though. It's not just the flash, it's also the camera body. Both must be high-speed sync capable. Now, is your camera body high-speed sync capable? Yeah, it's going to kind of depend. It's hit and miss as to what I've seen. For example, the Nikon D3300, D3400, they are not high-speed sync capable, and neither is the D5000. So whatever camera you have, you're just going to have to go out and take a look at it. For the sake of our demo today, again, I've got the K&F 882 here. I'll post a link as to where you can get this flash below, and I also have my trusty Nikon D7000. Now this is a much older camera, but it is high-speed sync capable, and I have the fixed 50 lens paired on the top here. So one other thing to think about in order to better understand this concept is just how the shutter works. Now I've got some very crude index cards here that I'm going to show you, but I think it's going to get the point across. So let's just jump in and take a quick look at that. I'm going to start off by showing the mechanism and how it works inside this camera, at least the best we can. I'm going to remove the lens, which this is the fixed 50. And again, I'm on the Nikon D7000 here. Now I'm in manual mode. Now when I go to press the shutter, the mirror is going to flip up, and behind it there are two curtains. Now if you think about curtains on a stage, they come in from the side like this. Inside your camera, the two curtains are actually on top of each other, and you have a front curtain and a rear curtain. And they sit in the camera like this. Now they're more of an accordion, so they're much closer together than my fingers. But when the curtains are exposed, the bottom curtain drops down, exposing the sensor, and the top curtain closes right behind it. Now we're really not going to see the curtains in this demonstration, but you will see the mirror pop up. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. So the mirror's up, the curtains are open, and the sensor is exposed. Now the curtains closed and the mirror came back down. That was about a 4-second shutter. So you can see that if we did this much quicker, you would barely see anything. You just hear the click. So let's go ahead and move into my crude but effective index card demonstration. I've got my trusty cards right here. Nothing special, but again, I think it'll help drive the point. I have 4 of them. The first one represents our mirror. The second card is our front curtain. And our third card is the rear curtain. And then the last card is our sensor. So let's go ahead and jump into this crude demonstration. And it looks something like this. So To begin with, when we looked in the camera, we had our mirror, and our mirror was positioned at an angle, something like this right here. And when we took the shot, the mirror flipped open like this, and what that does is it exposes the curtains. And the curtains inside the camera look something like this. So your rear curtain is actually up here, and your front curtain is covering the sensor. Now, your rear curtain is not fully expanded like this. It's actually scrunched down like an accordion. And what happens is your front curtain slides down to the bottom of the sensor, and then the rear curtain slides back over the sensor. And that amount of time that the scene is exposed to the sensor is our shutter speed. So that's important to understand. Now, the maximum native shutter speed with any given flash is this. The first curtain comes down to the bottom, and as soon as it hits the bottom, the second curtain comes in right behind it. So there's no delay. And that amount of time is the maximum sync speed of your camera that is native to any given flash. Now, we're not talking high sync here, it's just the regular sync speed. Now, take for example, if you had a 3-second shutter, what would happen is your front curtain would come down, the sensor would be exposed for 3 seconds, and then this comes over the top. Now, if you're at 1/200th of a second, your front curtain comes down, and as soon as it hits, this comes right behind it, and you're good. Now, what happens when we're shooting faster than 1/200th of a second? Let's just take, for example, 1/1000th of a second. What happens is this. Your front curtain comes down to a certain point, and let's just say it's right there, and then your rear curtain follows right behind it, and it looks like that. And it exposes the sensor in a band. And that is how it works. When the front curtain gets down to the bottom, the rear curtain finally closes the sensor, and they come back to the top, and we're ready for another shot. Now, how does this work with high-speed sync? High-speed sync works like this. The camera and the flash work together so that when the front curtain gets down to here, a flash pops. It pulses right here. It slides down a little more and pulses again. And pulses again and again and again and again until it's all the way to the bottom, and then it comes back up. That is how the high-speed sync works. And keeping in mind this distance between the front curtain and the rear curtain will vary depending on that shutter speed. Now, just know that if it's fully wide like this, that is roughly 1/200th of a second. Anything faster is going to be a narrowing band of some sort. And that is the built-in intelligence that your camera and the flash have to know just how wide that is and how many pulses to make that happen. Let's see if we can jump on a real-world demo of this now. The sun's starting to set out here, and it's getting a little dark. Now, for this demonstration, I've got my D7000 here on top of a tripod, and I had to bump the ISO up just a little bit so that I can ensure that the shutter speed is faster than the native maximum sync shutter speed of 1/200th of a second. So right now I'm metering right around 1/1000th to 1/1200th of a second in that neck of the woods. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one shot without the flash so you can see what that looks like. And I'm using matrix metering mode, so that means everything in the frame is being considered for the exposure. And behind me, as the sun starts to set, we have the clouds back there, and I have some trees right up in here. And so it looks nice, but it's going to meter for that background and not so much for me. Now, if I did meter for myself, I would be properly exposed, but everything else would be blown out. I don't want that. So in this case, let's go ahead and take a look at the settings on the camera and the flash, and then we're gonna go ahead and take a few shots. On the back of the camera, I'm gonna hit menu right here. And this brings up my custom settings menu, and what I'm looking for is the bracketing / flash. Now your camera might be a little different, but look in this general area for flash sync speed. I'm going to go ahead and hit on this, and you can see all my options right here. Now on this particular camera, it looks like we can go up to 1/250th of a second natively. Now if I want to If I want to get into the high-speed sync, I'm going to have to lean on one of these two options right here. In the Nikon world, it shows up as the Auto FP. So I'm going to choose the very top option and just select OK. And at this point, my camera is now ready for a high-speed sync. Let's go ahead and take a look at the back of the flash. We're looking at the back of the flash unit as it is mounted to the camera body. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on by pushing this button here, the on-off button in the bottom right. You just need to hold it down for a second and it powers on. I'm going to go ahead and activate the backlighting to make it a little easier to see. That is in the top left over here. Just press in and there you have it. Now you can see we're in manual mode and my power is set as low as I can go because I will not need a whole lot. You can cycle the modes by hitting this button right here. You can see there's TTL and there's master again, and you cycle throughout. Now, one notable about high-speed sync on this flash, as it is with the body, is we should see an indicator right above my finger. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and activate the camera, and you can see the little H appear right here. This tells me that this flash is in high-speed sync mode and it is ready to go. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a step back and grab a few shots. As I start this demo, I'm going to ensure that the flash is shut off and I have my remote enabled. Now my remote is set up for a 10-second delay, so that'll give me time to get in front of the camera and get posed. You're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and press the shutter. Going to assume my position, again 10 seconds. I'm going to strike my best pose and let's see what we get. So there you have it. This particular image shows that the background with the sky is properly exposed, but I'm relatively dark in this image. What we're going to do right now is I'm going to turn the flash back on, and I'm not going to touch any other settings with the camera. And let's see what we get this time. Hold it in for a second. Flash is now on. And what this should do is set out those pulses of light to match the shutter speed. Let's see what happens. Again, I have 10 seconds. I'm going to strike my best pose, and let's see what we get. So there you go. Now you can see how this particular image throws additional light on me, and it still maintains the exposure in the background, making for a better overall image in my opinion. I want to show you one more demo. I've come inside now because it's much darker outside, and I have a light off to the side here and one behind me. Now right over here is the set of index cards that I used earlier, and I'm going to photograph those. Now the point behind this demo is to show you what happens when we exceed the maximum shutter speed that is native to the camera and the flash. And what I mean by that is on this particular camera it is 1/250th of a second. And this flash right here, I'm going to trick it into thinking that it's just a regular ordinary flash, and I'm going to disable high-speed sync on it. So we're going to do one picture at 1/250th of a second, and what we should see is just a regular image that has taken full advantage of the flash. Then I'm going to step up and I'm going to do one more shot at 1/500th of a second, and then another one at 1/800th, and then I think I'm going to do one at 1/1250th of a second. And then we're going to step up one more and we're going to do 1/2000ths of a second. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting, and let's take a look and see what happens. As you can see on this first image, it's as we expected. It's taken full advantage of the flash. On the 1/500ths of an image, you can see how the gray bar starts to come in. Now that gray is basically just the shadow. That's the area that did not take advantage of the flash. As we step into the 1/800th of a second, you can see how that gray bar has expanded. Now keeping in mind that's not gray being introduced, it's just that it's not getting the flash. And again, as we step into the 1/1250th of a second, you can see that that shadow area is much greater. And again, as we step into the 1/2000ths of a second, that it is mostly covered by the shadow, taking little advantage of that flash. You may not need to shoot in high-speed sync that often, but it's nice to know how to do it and why you might want to do it. How often do I use it? Well, not very, but I can if I need to, and that's what makes it nice. So again, two things to make this happen. The body must support high-speed sync, and your flash must support high-speed sync. Now, if you're shooting with the Nikon D 3300, 3400, or the 5500, and maybe some other ones in the 5000 series, or maybe you have an entry-level Canon type DSLR, check to see if your camera supports high-speed sync. Now, if you think that in the future you might get a camera that does, consider getting a flash that does. Now, I've created other videos, and I'll post that link below on the other flashes that I've used, and they work well, but they are not high-speed sync enabled. Now, this particular flash right here is the K&F Concepts 882, and I'll post a link below as to where you can get this from. Now, this supports all the basic features. I do kind of like the fact it's got a built-in diffuser on it. The newers that I've leveraged before do the same, and this also has a white card right here. Now, the white card's used just to reflect the flash back towards the subject. But again, this has worked pretty well. And if this video has helped you out, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel. It's called Real World. More often than not, I post videos about photography and technology, but you never know. So until the next video, take care of yourself and be safe.